Sometimes I think what name I should be used for media. Incompetent, paid, sold, or pimp. Sometimes I think that even using pimp as a word to our media is a respect. I hope everyone who is watching this video knows that what is the meaning of pimp. And being an Indian national, how we explain pimp in Hindi, everyone know that meaning. I think Indian media is now one level lower than pimp. But unfortunately, lexical, in English the lexical means dictionary, do not allow me to have a word which is better than pimp. If you have this word, let me know, I will definitely start using next time. Last week, Reserve Bank of India, to whom I always titled as the most efficient and innovative central bank of the globe, did their monetary policy. And this pimp media presented monetary policy in such a way that in fact at several places they compared our current governor with Mr. Draghi. I never say that all the work which done by Mr. Draghi is right. If he took 10 steps during his long career as a president of or as a head of European Central Bank, ECB, then 10 out of 10. But one good thing which I always acknowledged is that Mr. Draghi come into the picture when Eurozone was almost messed up. How can somebody forget the pigs? Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece and South Africa. How can we forget that? And pigs was not the only term at that point of time. The market was full of different terms. During all these backdrop, a gentleman came whose name is Draghi. He did wonderful job here, but at some places I do have an interpretation issue, but more or less I give him 8 out of 10. But our pimp media compared RBI governor with Draghi. In fact, I tell you, if our media want, they can compare RBI governor with Powell also. Powell, the Federal Reserve Chair. I have no doubt. Or maybe if it required, then they can even compare RBI governor with Einstein also. So what happened? Why did they compare Mr. RBI governor with Draghi? Because RBI governor introduced a stuff which is known as LTRO, long-term repo operations. And the day LTRO announced by European Central Bank during the height of Eurozone crisis, I always have an indemnification issue or interpretation issue with the European Central Bank, and many times on my video, in my old videos, you might have noticed I have mentioned LTRO is not long-term repo operations, rather it is a long-term repo options. But unfortunately this voice not went to ECB, or maybe if it went to ECB is not interested. But I am a person who never shoot video for 1 million likes, just like Siraj Rawal. I never shoot video for comments. I never shoot video for appreciation. I shoot video which is a fact, and fact has to be there. So I always call LTRO as long-term repo options. It is not long-term repo operations. This is part 1 of this video. In the part 2 of the video, what happens that one very good thing Mr. Draghi did when he was the head of ECB, he introduced a different kind of LTRO, and here I will definitely, I have to give him 8.5 out of 10, which is indexed LTRO. Some media people mention this as iLTRO, and I think this is the most innovative work did by Mr. Draghi at that point of time, and I have a deep respect at least for this job. I am a kind of person, if you do 10 things, 3 wrong, I'm against you in these 3. If you do 7 good, I'm with you in the 7. So I will see point by point. But unfortunately, what happened that in English there is a very good line, which is that even to copy something from somebody you need skills. हिंदी में इसको कहते हैं कि अकल के लिए भी नकल चाहिए होती है, और नकल के लिए भी अकल चाहिए होती है. But in English we call this as, if you need to copy something, you need to have the skill. Even copying something, you need to have a skill. So नकल के लिए भी अकल चाहिए होती है. This is how we pronunciate in Hindi. Our RBI governor introduced LTRO. So this is part 1. In the part 2, what happened? People spend several lakh rupees in doing MBA, which is Masters of Business Administration, at least on the paper. I am also MBA, but I never hesitate to criticize MBA. And most importantly, in their college degrees, so-called MBA, CFA, Certified Financial Analyst, FRM, Faltu Risk Management, and CMA, and all these degrees, no one teaching them holistically how central bank manages the liquidity in the system. I think 2 important things, like last time I told that 2 important things which not being taught by the books is how central banks manage the liquidity in the system, which in some cases also known as liquidity management framework, and in some cases known as interest rate corridor. While American economists mention this as interest rate corridor, while Asian economists mention this as liquidity management framework. It is more or less same thing. You call Donald Trump or you call Trump, you are referring to a same person. As far as you are talking about the President of United States of America, you are talking to the same gentleman. Eventually what happened in this monetary policy, RBI made several changes, but our pimp media, because of the lack of skills, not understood anything. But before moving this, I will take a halt here, and I would like to congratulate first time in my life to ex-governor of Reserve Bank of India, Mr. Subbarao, Mr. D. Subbarao, who is currently in Singapore. He lives in Singapore like me, but I am in India nowadays because of China virus, a lot of action. So Mr. D. Subbarao was basically he was an IS officer, Indian Administrative Service. I call this as Intellectual Administrative Service. And Mr. D. Subbarao took over Reserve Bank of India, and immediately 1 year after, big mess. And this mess reached to a level that, but the skill set and the presence of mind Mr. Subbarao demonstrated at that point of time, I don't think in the era of Reserve Bank of India, even Raghuram Rajan, the so-called Raghuram Rajan, who every second day come in media and speak theory but never talk about practical, which like we going to talk, comparing things, even he did that. What happened? Reserve Bank or any other bank of the globe manages liquidity management framework. If I speak from an American angle, I call this as interest rate corridor framework. Point is same. Which includes repo operations, whereby a central bank lends money, which includes reverse repo operation, in which they take money. Many schools, business colleges, MBA institutions only teach repo and reverse repo, but most of the people do not know that different central banks have different versions of repo. So just talk from an Indian angle, you have fixed rate repo, you have variable rate repo. And when we talk from an American angle, it is structured repo, non-structured repo, collateral repo, non-collateral repo, and the list is third party repo, bipartite repo, and list is very long. That is the reason why American financial system is considered as one of the best financial system in the globe, even better than London, and Singapore stands nowhere, to be honest. Because the quantity and the quality of the financial instruments available in the American banking system is always advanced compared to India and even Singapore, to be honest. But there are few changes, and let's take a halt here again and let's talk about a gentleman who always speak in the public domain but never have the guts to talk numbers. Mr. Raghuram Rajan. During 2013, when Indian rupee touched almost 68, great havoc happened in the market, and the so-called pundits sitting in the banks, they forecasted Indian rupee to be 71, 72. I'm talking about 6-year-old, roughly 7-year-old story, and at that point of time, 68 was a big number, to be honest. Raghuram Rajan immediately used his face value, and he did long-term POS, principal only swap. What he did, Reserve Bank of India did FCNR funding, foreign currency non-resident, whereby, and to be honest, Mr. Raghuram Rajan was lucky at that point of time, because 2013 the world economy was doing good, but Indian economy was doing bad, just like today. Today, world economy is also doing bad and Indian economy is doing more bad. So if today RBI governor wanted to do FCNR, this is impossible. But at that point of time, the world economy was doing good, but Indian economy was doing bad. So such kind of instruments was possible. So what Raghuram Rajan did at that point of time, he launched 2 different FCNR, and the total is 12 plus 26, total 38. Precisely 38.5 something was the number. So what he did, he asked NRIs, non-resident Indians, to invest. So what happens generally, non-resident Indians will invest the money within India. They surplus cash and they earn interest, because India is a liquidity deficit country. Since India is a liquidity deficit country, so a dollar deficit country, so they need dollars. So the people, NRIs, which is also known as the invisibles, I don't know you know or not, but if you would have open RBI balance sheet, you will, in the balance sheet section, specifically the asset part, you get something which is known as current account. And in current account, the largest component is the invisibles. India is never be a current account positive country or surplus country. We know it's a current account deficit country. We all know that. But the only surplus element which comes is invisibles. Invisibles in RBI balance sheet is having 2 components. Number 1, it includes the income generated by the software companies, just like TCS, HCL, Infosys, Cognizant, all the Indian or non-Indian IT companies operational in India. Their income is a part of invisibles, plus the remittances which foreign nationals who are Indian nationals, they give to India, which is also a part of FCNR. So what he did, he opened 2 FCNR, 12 plus 26, total 38. But the so-called Raghuram Rajan never acknowledged in the media that he forgot to hedge that. It is just like you opened the door for the purpose and let the money in, but you failed to close the door, which is the hedging. And the end result is, after 3 to 5 year period, when they expired and Raghuram Rajan was not in the picture, and Urjit Patel was in the picture, he had to hedge that at a prevalent rate, which created massive liquidity shortage and issues about Indian rupee in the system. But no one bothered at that point of time, because our media is pimp and incompetent. But now this kind of facility is not possible, because the non-resident Indians who live outside India will have very little money. Jobs are cutting, they are coming back to India, their salaries are cutting, jobs are going, so they don't have money to bring to India. And another issue why this kind of thing do not happen is that, which is today's newspaper, which is remittance abroad could face double tax. So this also created an issue. Now what happened? RBI cannot do that. This is apparent. But our RBI do not have foreign exchange knowledge. One side, RBI always claim they have FX reserves of $471 billion. They never talk about FX liability, which is over $600 billion, and the difference between FX assets minus FX liability is known as NIIP, Net International Investment Position. What RBI could have done at that point of time, rather than doing this, which we surely going to get discussed, if I would be RBI governor, what I would have done, I would have kept a part of my FX reserve under CCIRS. So cross-currency interest rate, cross-currency interest rate swap, CCIRS, is of two kinds. Number one, dollarization swap. One is reverse dollarization swap. Dollarization swap means conversion of local currency asset or local currency liabilities into dollar terms. That definitely not impacted, that definitely out of context here. Reverse dollarization swap means conversion of dollar asset and liability into rupee asset and liability. And if I would be RBI governor, I would have used that tool. What I would have done, I would have kept, like, before moving, let me read this. There are 4 pillars on which latest policy rests. Pillars. First, the RBI is closing its window for fixed daily rate and 14-day repo beginning 15th February. It opens a new repo window for long-term 1-year and 3-year tenor as a part of long-term repo operations. I always, till my last day in my life, would have an indemnification issue. This is long-term repo options. So if anyone disliked this video, you can dislike this video. If anyone wanted, even RBI governor disagrees, doesn't matter. Even Draghi disagrees, doesn't matter, because I can prove that it is long-term repo options. So I say, in my words, RBI beginning 15th February, it opens a new repo window for long-term 1-year and 3-year tenors as a part of long-term repo options. Commercial banks borrow money from central bank repo window, offering government bonds as a collateral. Note this point, government bonds as a collateral. Instead of overnight and the fortnight funding, they would be able to borrow at a current repo rate, which is around 5.15%, which would bring down the cost of money for them and push down the bond yield in the short term, as per pimp media. What I would have done, I would have used my brain. It is said that the total money which is capped is 1 trillion. Right? I am not saying that RBI is saying. By the way, if you visit to RBI website, the total money which they are doing right now around 50,000 crores. So here it is 100,000, they are doing 50,000, which is half of that. So that difference I am failed to understand why there is a difference between the number which is in the newspaper or monetary policy versus which is on the website. But only RBI governor can explain that, And no pimp media highlighted this difference, by the way. Let's move further. What I would have done, I would have created a reverse dollarization swap. And what is reverse dollarization swap? Conversion of dollar asset and liabilities into local currency. So I need 1 trillion INR. Standing today, the dollar rate is around 2.5%. Everyone knows that. Federal fund rate. 3-year Indian rupee IRS is approximately 6.5 something. It means, if I just try and understand, if I am RBI governor, what I would have done, I would have sold my dollars to Goldman Sachs US, and I would have created 3-year swap, whereby what would I have done? Goldman would give me equivalent 1 trillion INR at a current spot rate, which is 71.30. Since I gave dollars to Goldman, the 2.5%, which is federal fund component, for a minute I ignore LIBOR, 2.5% component is accrue on me. while the INR which Goldman gave to me, it's accrue on Goldman. So the net difference RBI would have paid. 6.5 minus 2.5 is approximately 4%. Is approximately 4%. And when I'm going to create the structure using LIBOR, it would be less than 4%, but for simplistically it is 4%. Now what is the problem? It means I am able to use after 3 years what RBI would do. RBI would give this 1 trillion to Goldman and Goldman will give my dollar back. So my dollar is in a bank. I know that I dealt with Goldman, and by the way, just giving Goldman Sachs as an example, it's not basically the real life resemblance is just maybe by chance. So that 4% or less than 4% I am actually paying to Goldman as an interest. I would be passing this to a bank who is here, lending to a bank, and from where I would have earned what? An index rate. And that is the beauty of Mr. Draghi, which he created. But what this person did? He is lending $1 trillion. I explain again. Current structure of RBI is he is lending $1 trillion to bank. For 1 year and 3 year period, the total is 1 trillion INR, which is 1 lakh crore. And after 1 and 3 years, these banks will return them the money and get their collateral back. So collateral is always an issue number one. So there is no index which is there in the picture. There is no index which is there in the picture. But the beauty is that rather than doing LTRO, RBI should have done iLTRO, which is indexed long-term repo operation as per books, and to me it is indexed long-term repo options. What I would have done, a part of my FX reserve I would have sold to Goldman, and I would have created two CCIRS, one for 1 year rolling, one for 3 year rolling. The net difference would always be less than repo rate, and I would have make money out of it, and that money would be part of the credit side of the P&L of the RBI. So I would ultimately be paying 4% to Goldman, and I am giving to bank at 5.15%. So ultimately I am making 1.15%. And to make it more better, I would have linked with an index which is known as, every country in the world having two indexes. One is known as the benchmark curve, which in our parlance known as BMK, and one is known as the OIS curve, which is known as overnight index swap. Why Mr. Draghi was able to successfully conclude indexed LTRO, or I would say why European Central Bank able to successfully conduct iLTRO, only because both the indexes, which is Euro benchmark curve and Euro basically OIS overnight index swap curve, is completely liquid. Henceforth, what they did, they linked OIS curve with 3 different collaterals. Now comes to collateral. Here what they said, I will repeat. First, RBI is closing its window for fixed rate daily and 14-day repo. Beginning 15 February, it opens a new repo window for long-term 1 year and 3 year tenor as a part of his LTRO. Commercial bank borrow money from central bank repo, offering government bonds as a collateral. Hold a minute, boss. Hold a minute. Every government security is having two prices. One is known as the clean price and one is known as the dirty price. Both the value will be the clean price value is available on Reuters and Bloomberg, which some cases also known as is a part of benchmark curves, which is known as BMK curves. Dirty price, you need to compute yourself out of it. If I would have done iLTRO, I would have linked this with OIS curve, and I would have said the rate you would be paying is OIS plus the haircut. Now let me explain again. Is the Uttar Pradesh government security or a government, forget Uttar Pradesh, any government security issued by central government or all securities issued by central government are having the same haircut, having the same clean price, having the same dirty price? No, it is not. Is the sensitivity of the government security which are in the benchmark curve pertaining to the movement of the curve by 1%, which is also known as duration, is same? No. Is the modified duration of all government securities same? No. Is the effective duration of all government securities same? No. So the better option was for Reserve Bank of India in this monetary policy mechanism to link this with an index which is preferably OIS and define the haircut level on all government securities. But that never happened. Henceforth, once again, I am forced to say that Reserve Bank is one of the most idiotic bank we have in this globe, whose foreign exchange knowledge and financial market instrument knowledge is absolutely zero. And our pimp media is presenting an image of RBI in such a way that there is no better central bank in the whole globe than RBI. Another big mistake RBI did is this. According to me, banks will have the incentive to give loans of almost 2 trillion and cut interest rate up to 30 bips because of the basically MSME free from CRR. Now I will read it here to make it more clear to you. Yes. For 6 months, which is from 31st January to 31st July, banks are freed from maintaining the so-called cash reserve ratio, which is 4% of NDTL, by the way. From their NDTL, a loose proxy for deposit used to give retail loans to MSME and real estate households. So basically, in short, 4% of the NDTL to be maintained. NDTL stands for net demand and time liabilities. 4% of the NDTL supposed to be maintained and give to RBI, whereby banks generate no interest, zero. So it's a sunk cost, which impacts ID to CD ratio mechanism. I don't know how many people even understand what is ID to CD ratio mechanism. Anyways, what they did, they freed 4,000 crores to 5,000 crores out of this. They said, if your total NDTL is 100 rupees and out of this you did the funding to MSME or the housing or real estate, residential housing, say 20 rupees, then currently you are making a CRR on 4. 100 into 4%, which is 4. Now you make 80, assuming the component is 20, 80 into 4, which is 3.2. The 80 cent you got, you can lend to the MSME. Hold on, my friend. Hold on. You already have a huge non-performing asset in your books. RBI himself acknowledged that the total non-performing asset in the books in the last September is more than 13 lakh crores. RBI himself acknowledged that multiple banks in India are doing non-performing asset diverging, which means that the total non-performing asset they should have reported, they are not reporting. And you are giving this facility only for 6 months. Which means that if today, rather than paying you $4, 4 rupee, which is 100 into 4%, 4, I am giving you 3.2, which is 100 into 3, which is 80 into 4, which is 3.2. The difference, which is 80 cents, I am keeping and I am giving to MSME. Look at the economy. Look at the job cuts in the system. Look at the You know, the income levels, the falling income levels of the people. Is MSME able to repay that loan? Nowhere, boss. It is out of context. So rather than decreasing non-performing asset, you are increasing non-performing asset. So once again, stupidity. And that facility you are giving only for 6 months. If I would be RBI governor, I would have linked this facility with the FX reserve CCIRS I have created. So rather than firing two salvos independently, if I were the RBI governor, I would have fired one salvo which would serve, or which would I would say help one, which is in English known as one arrow and two sparrow. And currently, to kill two sparrow, we are shooting two arrows, and both are not serving the purpose. This is our presentation of Reserve Bank of India monetary policy, whereby our pimp media giving a title of Draghi, who invented iLTRO, indexed long-term repo operation, or in my parlance indexed long-term repo options, which Reserve Bank did nowhere. Most importantly, the usage of FX reserve was not done. The linking of CRR with the FX reserve was not done. And most important thing which Reserve Bank not did, is the creation or the linking of FX reserve, is the linking of this with the indexes, either INR benchmark curve and OIS. So once again, Treasury Consulting Group, without worry about the feedback, is giving 2 out of 10 to RBI. And 2 is only on account of respect, being an Indian national. We again feel that RBI immediately deserve a training in foreign exchange. By the time these, I would say, senseless instruments are being created, it will never serve the purpose. Rather, it will make the purpose more worst. That is, since time is always very limited, it is already 3:30 in the morning, so very difficult to give you the complete explanation of iLTRO. But Treasury Consulting would be launching own instrument, which is LTRO, long-term repo operation, and multiple other derivative instruments which would be available on Amazon soon. We already have 8+ derivatives on Amazon, and then this week we are planning another 3+ on Amazon. Treasury Consulting also testing DVA, which is derivative valuation analytics, linking Tableau with derivatives, and tough, but we got success, but we will get success, and we got success in the limited testing we did. Having said that, we again request people, those who are in the colleges, those who are doing degree program, rather than doing the assignments, joining the fest, or running before your teachers and professors, you should learn all these things, that how the monetary policy mechanism of RBI or different central bank happens. Preferably central bank to learn is the Federal Reserve and the ECB. Although European Union politically or non-politically is facing crisis, and Germany right now almost on the edge, but the economic framework or the liquidity management framework of European Central Bank, according to me, is perfect. Due to political uncertainty and economic uncertainty in that region, they might not be able to achieve the right purpose, but the way they draft it is very good. I always give hats off to European Central Bank. And with this, we thank you very much. You know my mobile number, which is +91 9899242978. 978. My other mobile number is mentioned on our fixed income platform. You know that from yesterday, our daily treasury mail service started. If you wanted to be part of that, you can connect us. Have a good time. Talk soon.